Hola, SAP developers. Before we start, I just want to let you know to feel free to drop us your questions on the chat window, as we will be monitoring it and we will answer your questions there. Welcome to this session, part of the CloudEvents 2023 integration track. This is a session that I'm really looking forward to, all about event-driven architectures. Today, we have Holger from Microsoft and my colleague Carsten, who will be telling us about event-driven architectures with SAP and Microsoft. Without any further delay, hola Holger, Carsten, over to you.
Hola Antonio. Yeah, thank you very much also from my side. As you said, my name is Holger Bruchelt. I'm part of the product management here at Microsoft, focusing on SAP integration. And in this role, I'm working very much and very closely with a lot of colleagues from SAP. And one of these colleagues is Carsten.
Yes, thanks, Holger. Then I can continue from here. Hi, everybody. My name is Carsten Struppmann. I'm the lead product manager for Event Mesh, SAP Event Mesh to be specific, and SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh at SAP based out of Waldorf. I've been working on event-driven architecture already for some years now, typically end-to-end. It's about event sources, it's about event consumers, and about the infrastructure. And yes, today the goal is, together with Holger, who I have been working closely with over the last years, to give you first a very quick introduction into event-driven architecture, and then an overview of SAP in that area, of Microsoft and event-driven architecture, and then Microsoft and SAP. And well, what is this going to look like? In respect to the agenda, we're going to start with a high-speed introduction to EDAs. We will look at SAP's event-driven ecosystem. We will look at Microsoft, at event-driven architecture at Microsoft, and then we will look at SAP and Microsoft and SAP, meaning how can we connect? How can we better connect in real time? I think we already said it in the title, bring together Microsoft and SAP in real time. How can we better do that? And you can already see it in purple there. There will be quite a number of demos in between that you can get a glimpse at our infrastructure and our event sources there. And yeah, the idea is to give you an overview of what's possible with event-driven architecture in the SAP and Microsoft customers. And with that said, let's get started. High-speed introduction to event-driven architecture. And I've been using my spider web on the right-hand side for quite some time to do that, because I typically like real-world examples there. Event-driven architecture is a concept that has been used by nature for millions of years in the end. What you can see on the right-hand side is an event consumer sitting right there in the middle of the spider's web. That's a spider. It waits for significant changes in the spider's web to happen. A significant change is an event. You do see two significant changes here. A leaf has ended up in the spider's web and a bug has ended up in the spider's web. The spider gets informed in real time about those changes in nature by vibrations of the spider's web, and it can then react. So if you want to see it like that, the spider's web is really an event broker. So it informs the spider of significant changes that have happened. Now, there are two kinds of events here in the IT world. There are notification events and there are data events. If you look at the spider's web, there's probably a notification event. The spider would get informed of a significant change and would then have to react. In the IT world, you get informed by an event, and you do see an event at the bottom of this slide. You get informed, and then if you're interested in the event, you can evaluate that. You're going to do an API call and get additional data. Data events already include all data in the IT world, so you don't have to take an additional step to get data. You can immediately execute on the change, on the significant change you have been informed about, because you got all the data that you need here. If we're looking at the bottom, this event here, you can see it originates from an S4 system and the business partner got changed. That's actually the event. You can see it's very small. It's the notification event. It just notifies you about the change and it holds minimal data. So with this event, you do have to do an API callback. What's very nice about this, it's in a format named CloudEvents. So it's a format driven forward jointly by a number of big players, including SAP, including Microsoft. And the idea is to facilitate the exchange of events between vendors. So quickly, an event is a significant change in state. There are two kinds of events, notification events and data events. The events originate from an event source, which could be an S4 system, a SuccessFactors system. It could be an IoT device. It could be another business application somewhere. It could be third-party business application. There's an event broker typically that brokers the events, that distributes the events, and then there are consumers that can register with the event broker and get informed of these significant changes. Event-driven architecture is nothing completely new. This approach has been around for quite some years already. And looking at it from the SAP world, if you look into the really old SAP backends, into the really old ECCs, there are already eventing concepts included. Nevertheless, as part of the cloud native movement, it was put into a different perspective. So the loose coupling was really moved to the front there in respect to microservices. So from the technology part, it was really about software development, loosely coupling different software components, taking advantage of flexibility, scalability that event-driven architectures bring, and fault tolerance is improved. DevOps approaches are supported very well because you can incrementally grow your infrastructure by clicking additional event sources in, by clicking additional events consumers into already existing infrastructure. So in the end, from a technology perspective, from a software perspective, event-driven architectures allow for new kinds of integrations and extensions in real time. So you get informed of changes immediately. The SAP perspective builds on top of that. We have this huge business perspective there. It not only comes from SAP, but as well from our customers. So for our customers, it is about being able to take business decisions on completely up-to-date information. And there, seconds might make a difference. So it's really good to have updates on significant changes in real time. Obviously, the loose coupling and all of these advantages come on top. The perspective is really business driven though. If we take it from there, hyper automation will be a next step. So you can completely hyper automate business processes. An event happens and a lot of steps are taken in parallel, independently from each other. Important point, and it's part of the story why we're sitting here. All of this is built to cross vendor boundaries, and specifically in respect to SAP, we have a very strong focus on that. There's usually always a hypercloud provider in the picture. There are different other software vendors, business software vendors, business application vendors in the pictures. And in our environment, all of these components need to play as a team. So that's a very important point to cross vendor boundaries. One thing that quite often gets overlooked, I do see quite some potential here in the future, organizational empowerment. So event-driven architectures, it can be kind of like a social media style approach. Something happens and you inform everybody that is interested in it about this change. And different organizations in the company can really trigger these events. So I expect a lot of things to happen there. Important point here, SAP built on the technology advantages and adds additional advantages to the business sides of things. Let's look at a few use cases in front-runner industries. What we typically see is that a number of industries have use cases that are quite obvious. A lot of use cases. It's typically, if you look at it, the industries that have a lot of customer contact. And let's quickly look at a few to give you an idea of what you can do. And I would bet that in the last week at least, you have already come into contact with event-driven architecture without knowing it. Let's start with retail. There are some retailers that not only work on their supply chain, which is a quite obvious use case. So there's a delay in the shipment, and you obviously update the stores that are going to receive the shipment. That's quite straightforward. But think about something more innovative. Let's assume the weather forecast says it's going to be raining, and you make sure that you have enough umbrellas in your stores, that your supply chain adjusts to that the positioning in the store adjusts to the forecast of it raining for the next 2 weeks. If it's going to be sunny, you probably better have a lot of ice cream in stock so that you can sell that. So retailers are really looking into that. They're looking, actually this use case is a live use case. And there are other use cases like pricing adjustments based on the weather that are live already as well. Travel is another big aspect, and it's another thing. If you look carefully, a lot of the airlines these days provide you with real-time updates about your flight being on time, about boarding information, about the gate that you have to go to. And a lot of this is driven with event-driven architecture. When I experienced it first, I did not know that it was event mesh and advanced event mesh behind the scenes, so SAP offerings. I was quite happy about it from a customer perspective. So it was a very good customer service. What I didn't understand, and that's another perspective that looking at it's business process optimization as well, because you make sure everybody is at the gate in time and you board in time and your flight is on time. So it does save the company's money as well. Cell and gene therapy is an SAP application that is powered actually by 32 different events. The use case here is that this medication needs to be delivered in 72 hours to the patients, and we need to completely track, or the customers need to completely track the entire delivery process, and they need to be able to prove that they have delivered in time. And we're doing this with events, which is really nice here. It's inbound and outbound events. It's not only informing about something getting shipped, it's really tracking the entire delivery process there. SAP's event-driven ecosystem. How do we power that? And you can see it's quite extensive, so I do not want to go into the full details here for time reasons. We have a number of event sources. You can see the big backend systems, the big business applications already being event-enabled using different mechanisms. So S4HANA uses web-based standard events, for example. You can use an add-on on top, S4 Cloud. It's a web-based events as well. There are more than 500 standard events that you can just switch on. For ECC, for older backends, we have an add-on that you can use to create custom events, success factors. You can reuse the intelligent services events and. So there are plenty of events that you can use already. On the event consumer side, you can see integration suite. There are sub-builds working on it. Different SAP backends can consume events as well. So we call this inbound, while on the left-hand side, it's outbound events. Point here is S4 Cloud, S4HANA using the web-based approach can consume events, ECC and S4HANA on-prem using the event enablement add-on. And in purple, Azure Event Grid, we'll get back to that later, is one of the consumers there as well. That was embedded program. And in the middle, you can see the eventing infrastructure. Currently, it's typically or it's primarily two brokers, Event Mesh and Advanced Event Mesh. So this is what the overall ecosystem is going to look like in spring 2024. And it's a lot of things that I had been wishing for in the last years. On the left-hand side, the SAP business applications in the cloud, on-premise backend. So for the on-premise backend, you can create custom events, and for S4, extensible standard events as well, meaning you can take those 500 standard events and can add additional fields to them, can adjust them to your needs. That is something that's going to come in the fall. In the fall of 2023, business applications in the cloud, extensible standard events as well. And then there's SAP to SAP Cloud event integration behind the scenes that allows you to integrate SAP Cloud applications in the end in an SAP managed way with prepackaged content. There's integration suite at the center of this with event bridging and brokering. So it's really the center of the event-driven SAP ecosystem reaching out to third party, meaning crossing vendor boundaries, bringing together SAP on-premise backend, cloud backends there. There's Advanced Event Mesh, which is our enterprise-grade event mesh. So it's not only a broker. You can spin up brokers, but you can connect those brokers to form this network of event brokers. And it is about scale. It is about distribution of these events. Some of our customers have more than 40 or 50 event brokers forming a mesh on a global level. And it provides quite a number of advanced features. And with that said, let me quickly show you what I have been talking about. And what you can see here first is the Business Accelerator Hub. So this is what used to be known as API Business Hub, and it allows you to look up available events. So if you click on categories, you can see that there are quite a number of standard events in here. What I would like to do is I would like to show you one thing, and that is the development of events. So where we're heading. I want the business partner events here, because that was one of the earliest objects that got event enabled. So we got two events for the business partner there, business partner change, business partner created. If you look at the reference and at the payload, you can see it's very small. That was the event that had been showing in the beginning already. If I now go back actually and look for sales order, then we're going to go to the sales order event. You can see what just has been happening here. It's one of the newer events. It's a little bit of front runner event as well. It shows you there's way more. There are way more events there already on a completely different level. Created, changed, deleted, but delivery status changed and so on. So it's getting more granular. And if we go in here, it's even on item level. And now I click on the event reference. And if I now look at the payload, you can see the payload is getting bigger. So this is what I call decision events. It provides you way more information on the event, and you can really decide on that information whether you want to do the call back there. Needless to say, in the fall, you will be able to even further enhance these events by adding additional fields using a concept called derived events. What you see here is the S4 side of things. So you can see there's one outbound topic here in this channel. It's a business partner. If I would like to add sales orders to this, I would go here. And first of all, you can see the events that are available in this system. So it's quite some if we scroll down here. But let me now filter for sales order. Let me click. And then I see all the sales order events here. So I think I need to go up if I want everything. This asterisk means I would go for everyone. I will just go for the sales order without charge event. I would click create. We can go back to the channel. And now what we would be doing, we would be exposing sales order without charge events as well. So this is how easy it is to add additional events to the existing channel. Let's now have a very quick look at one of our event brokers here, actually Mesh. This is SAP Integration Suite, Advanced Event Mesh. You can see there are event management features, there are event streaming features, there are monitoring and analytics features in there. What I would like to very quickly show you is the Mesh Manager, which shows you that you can build global meshes. You can see there are different brokers, an Azure broker in India, for example, connected on a global level, and the events are flowing back and forth between those brokers. So it's really a global network. And now imagine not only 3 brokers here, imagine 40 or 50, and the mesh takes care a lot of optimizations in event distribution here. Next thing I quickly want to show you is how easy it is to spin up a broker and how that would work. So you can select different t-shirt sizes that come with in the end more storage, more connections and so on supported. Let's just choose the 1K broker here, and then you can pick Microsoft Azure right there as a hypercloud provider. And now we got the option to select a data center, and I would now, let me select the one in Australia. Australia is to be specific. If I now create the service, it is going to spin up a broker in Australia on Microsoft Azure. So we're kicking the broker creation off on BTP. The actual broker startup takes place on Azure there. And with that said, I think that was a very initial demo. It's going to take 5 minutes for the broker to start up, so I will cancel it at this point in time. But that's how easy it is. You have a number of other features, as said on the left-hand side, event portal features, and. But that was a first glimpse. With that, over to you, Holger.
Thank you, Carsten. Yeah, perfect. So now that we've seen how it looks like on the SAP side, how easy it is to expose these services from the SAP system into the event mesh functionality. Let's switch sides basically for a second and take a look on the Microsoft side. And I want to start with the different messaging or the Azure messaging platform basically. So if you look at messaging or event-driven architectures on the Microsoft side, we're basically talking about 4 services. That's the Azure Event Grid, an elastic PubSub broker. We have Azure Service Bus, our message queue broker. We have Azure Event Hubs. And finally, for event streaming, we have Azure Stream Analytics. Now, what we want to focus on today is actually the Azure Event Grid. So with Azure Event Grid, we have this PubSub message broker that allows you to work with different protocols, work with different messaging patterns, basically. And one of the obvious things is a simple HTTP event push delivery. But for example, we're already working also on event pull delivery scenarios. We support MQTT and so on. So there are a lot of scenarios where we can very easily connect also to the SAP systems. Now, we wanted to make this very specific, and that's where Carsten and I and a lot of folks, obviously, on both the SAP and the Microsoft side, worked very closely together to make sure that some of the out-of-the-box event sources are actually really SAP. So that if you are coming from the Microsoft side, or if you want to leverage some of the Microsoft functionalities, if you want to use an Azure Functions, or if you want to get information into Microsoft Teams, for example, that it's very easy for you to connect to the different events that, as Carsten showed before, can easily be exposed from, for example, an S4HANA system. And that's basically this beautiful integration that we've worked on, where now we have SAP is really a key provider of events into the Azure Event Grid. And from there, we can then leverage the first-party integrations of different Microsoft services in the Azure Event Grid service. And that's really something that we want to show you. But before we cross the boundaries, basically, let me quickly show you and introduce you how the scenario looks like on the Microsoft side. So basically, if I'm here in my Azure subscription, I have here an Azure resource defined. And what I did is I created an event grid topic, basically. So in this event grid, obviously has an endpoint that I can easily use. So I can use this from Postman, and we'll use a Visual Studio Code REST plugin in a second, just to simulate the scenario. But I have here different ways how I can protect this endpoint. And then, most importantly, I have these event subscribers, where I can easily add certain first-party native integration subscribers for Event Grid. And one of them, for example, again, this is a very simple demo, is an event hook. So basically what I did, I went to webhook.sites, a very simple page where you can receive events. And now if I go here, for example, to Visual Studio Code, where I have this small REST client, where I have the endpoint of my Azure Event Grid. And I have here some demo data. So for example, I could just say SAP and Microsoft, and then we'll put here integration. So basically just, I can work with the content here. If I now send or submit this request to our Azure Event Grid, what will happen if I go here to webhook.sites, then I can immediately see here this event coming in. So it was just received. We can see the different properties. And obviously that's something that I can work with. So the event grid, the event grid, that's what received this event, and it forwarded this event to my subscriber, which in this specific case was this webhook. We'll work on this in a second in the next demo, but for now let's take a look actually what we're doing what we have done as Microsoft and SAP to really bring this concept of the SAP world where we have the events, and the concept of the Microsoft world where we have this events integration closer together.
Good. Then let me continue here with the motivation and the vision. In the end, I mean, a lot of customers are both SAP and Microsoft customers. I remember that quite often from customer events where you have this very mixed audience, typically, and I still remember that from one event, customer, the SAP colleagues from the customer sitting on the left side, the Microsoft colleagues on the right-hand side. And in the end, EDAs are a way to cross vendor boundaries. I was mentioning that earlier, and to bring IT worlds together. And our joint vision is that in the end, Microsoft customers can easily consume SAP events, and SAP customers can consume easily Microsoft events. And if you think it through or if you put it into context with what I just said a minute ago, it might be the same customers, so they can really leverage things. And thinking of that room again, I think it would really be beneficial if the SAP colleagues and the Microsoft colleagues, that the customers would really be able to talk to each other, would work very closely together, because that's quite a benefit for our joint customers right there. And yeah, we've been working on that for a while. So we started a customer engagement initiative some time ago to gather feedback. Actually, until earlier this year, there was a beta program that we were running jointly in respect to closely integrating the SAP event-driven ecosystem and the Microsoft event-driven ecosystem. And this was done to really evaluate best connectivity options and to optimize our offering there. Benefits and advantages of this vision. Why would you want to do that? Well, it's obvious. You want real-time and bidirectional event-driven integration to bring together the SAP and the Microsoft world. And you can immediately think of lots and lots and lots of use cases there. Worry-free event exposure. You want all of that to be standard. I mean, there are do-it-yourself or non-standard solutions out there. Well, why do it yourself if you can have it from SAP and Microsoft? You can avoid the pitfalls, and it's officially supported. So that's certainly a plus right there. You have a clearly defined handover point, and that's one thing I believe we're heading for in the future. You will not have just individual event brokers. You will have event meshes. You will have sub meshes there. So it's always going to be a combination of different event brokers bringing together, and think of the scale of our customers, bringing together the different worlds there. And in the end, you have SAP and Microsoft submeshes. They probably won't go away. And at the same point in time, you bring those together, the event flow across those submeshes. So you have the advantage that the event-driven architecture can be used enterprise-wide. And at the same point in time, you have those opinionated vendor-optimized submeshes where you get additional technical features. If you think about SAP, the cloud application programming model works great with SAP Event Mesh, will work great with advanced Event Mesh in future, for example. But if you develop BTP applications, it will be highly beneficial to use CAP and to ideally have events from Microsoft flowing into there. And I would assume it's the same on the Microsoft side if you're developing in Azure, to be able to get SAP backend events into there easily and quickly as well.
Exactly, and for especially this easily and quickly at this defined handover points, that's for me something that really stood out or stands out in our integration that we're doing there at the moment. Because as you said in the beginning, we will often see this room where we have the SAP side of the customer, where we have the Microsoft side of the customer, and they often don't really talk to each other. So if we can simplify the integration, this connectivity between the SAP and the Microsoft world, then all of a sudden Microsoft events are available to the SAP developer, and SAP events are available for the Microsoft developer. And I think that's where really this huge benefit comes in for our customers, that we really have these flows in both directions.
Yes, and I mean, what you see here is in the end, the flow that we did during the beta program, SAP backend to Azure Event Grid, Microsoft app, and vice versa from Azure Event Grid to sub event mesh there and into the SAP backends. So very straightforward on the one hand side, offering a lot of benefits. So I think Holger will in a minute show this to you. So it was quite nice. It was a very good experience. We've learned a lot there. Yes, I think we'll talk about it on one of the coming of the later slides. Our development is currently working on optimizing this, executing on the lessons learned.
Exactly. So let me quickly take a look and show you how this actually behaves in the setup and the overall configurations. So again, I'm here. Wait, where's my here? I'm in my Azure portal, and what we've done, one of the first things that we really did is we wanted to make sure that in the case of the direction of SAP events floating over to the Microsoft side, that the experience should be as easy as possible. So the idea is that we start with so-called partner configurations on the Microsoft side. And it's really important to highlight that the integration now, the making events available in Azure for an SAP customer, for an SAP backend system is now, really almost like a first-party integration. So if I want to do this configuration, I can see here SAP as a first-party partner surfacing up in the Azure portal. And I think that makes it extremely easy. You can just click through this wizard basically, and once you're done, there's a similar process that you need to do, obviously, on the Microsoft, on the SAP side, on the business technology platform with Event Mesh. So we're basically then I as the Microsoft administrator just go here to create my topic, and in this specific case there is no pending request, but potentially the SAP colleague from the BTP managing event mesh would have created this request. I now, as the Azure administrator, I just go in here, I see the request, and I can easily just approve this request directly from here. And then I have all the connectivity done. The security is taken care of. The endpoints are taken care of. So I am ready to basically consume SAP events in on the Microsoft platform. And then once I have done this, I said I can very easily let's quickly go back here. I can very easily create a subscription in an event subscriber. For example, a Logic app, what we see very often on the Microsoft side. And then with just 3 steps, for example, I can take this event and I, for example, can post this information to a Teams channel. So again, if I just do this here, let's go back to our Postman or to our REST client. If I just send this event now, and if I switch over to Teams, maybe I'm fast enough, then in a second, here you go, you can see the event now coming into Teams. And obviously this could be now rich SAP content. This could be information from a business partner or a sales order, like what Carsten just showed you. And in this kind of integration, I think this is where we see a lot of interest by customers at the moment. So let me show you how this actually looks really end to end. So if I'm here starting, for example, in the business process, business partner process creation process. So I created here this business partner. Now this event is sent via SAP Event Mesh, where I have the connectivity to my SAP system, where I have the connectivity to Azure, where I have this custom subscription that forwards this event to the Azure side. So the business partner is now created. If I switch over to Event Grid, I can actually see the incoming event. The event is forwarded to Logic Apps. Here's the Logic app with this very, very basic steps. And then as a result, I have the business partner information in Teams. And again, this could be now an approval process that is started in Teams, that the user in Teams just needs to click on, yes, I want to approve this sales order. Or maybe there's some additional actions that are required. Then I could do these either from Teams, or I could also provide a link back to an SAP Fiori application. But this initial integration of getting the event from the SAP side and forwarding this event basically on the Microsoft side, that's basically something where Microsoft and SAP really put a lot of effort in, I would say, to make this happen. Good. With this, I think, Carsten, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up together. So in the end, I think that it has come across quite strongly. We do have a strong partnership. Holger and I get along great. Microsoft and SAP get along great. Yeah, it's the way it is. Let's name it. So a lot of our customers really work with both companies, and we work intensively with each other there. You should have seen as well that both companies are betting big time on event-driven architecture. So it's growing. Event-driven architectures, event-driven ecosystems are growing both at SAP and at Microsoft. And this will not stop. I mean, it's a big trend. Real time will become more important over time. It's just perfect timing in a lot of those hype areas, in a lot of those growth areas. AI, business process automation, and. I mean, event-driven architecture will play a role in all of those areas. For us, what we have done is we have been executing those customer engagement initiative and beta programs earlier to gather feedback, to learn as much as possible about how to best integrate the two ecosystems. Actually, the best ecosystem I didn't necessarily want to say, but it holds true. I mean, SAP is extremely strong in respect to business applications. Microsoft is extremely strong in respect to business applications as well, but as well in the cloud, and you all know that. So building a bridge there is going to be highly beneficial. That's still our plan, and we've taken those lessons learned, and now our development works on implementing them. So they are currently in the process of optimizing what was there for the beta program, of getting this ready to move it into the market. These steps, the next steps on the SAP side, will be taken as part of the SAP integration suite. That's our goal there. I know that this recording, or this will be visible as a recording on YouTube as well, and you might watch it in a few months from now. So maybe by then you already know about the offering there. As said, currently we're working on it. The result will be that we will bring Microsoft and SAP, like the title of our session indicates. We will bring Microsoft and SAP closer together in real time. Okay, do you want to add to that?
No, I think that was a perfect summary, a perfect closing. From my side, thank you very much for joining this DevToberfest session. As Carsten said, I think event-driven architectures are something that we see popping up everywhere. We see a lot of customers really also looking specifically at this SAP and Microsoft event-driven integration, as Carsten outlined. So, and I think we made a perfect foundation to simplify this integration here.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Same from my side. Enjoyed it big time. If there are any questions, if there's anything, always feel free to reach out to us. I mean, you got the contact data right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carsten and Holger. I just have a couple of questions. So you mentioned the beta program, right? Is it something that you can still join the beta program, or has it been closed now?
It has been closed. We mentioned it because we wanted to show as much as possible. As said, it's the solution that we're heading for. I mean, we know we want this bridge. We know we want this bridge to be part of SAP integration suite on the SAP side. The colleagues are working on that. So this is not ready to be demoed. This is not ready to be shown. This is why I was mentioning, if you watch this in a few months, you might be able to already see the final offering there. As said, it's work in progress.
Makes sense. Also, I noticed when you were demoing how to add the broker and everything, there was an element there that said private cloud. Does that mean that I can add a broker in an on-prem sort of scenario and connect it to my mesh?
Yes, that's what it means. Actually, in respect to advanced event mesh, all you need is a Kubernetes environment. I mean, if a worst case scenario, if I wanted it, well, I'm not sure whether I want to say worst case scenario, but like most extreme scenario, I could deploy it on my laptop if I wanted to.
Oh, fantastic. That's good to know. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much, Holger and Carsten, for sharing your knowledge and expertise in this session. Also, thanks to you, the viewer, for joining the live event or the recording. So there is plenty for everyone to learn during the Toyfest. So please make sure to check out all the sessions that are part of the event. And that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sue.
Bye.
Bye-bye.